Hi, this is Bonnie, and today I am going to be using some Fairy Cuts dies that have been licensed to be worked to use with Lavinia stamps. They are exclusive to fairystamper.com, and so they are only a limited amount of these dies left, and so I'm going to be using some today, and then you can see what's left in the store for what you can use. It's really nice if you do not want to fussy cut and you want to create some cards or scenes with these. So today that's what I'm going to do. I am going to be using these two dies, and these two dies coordinate with this stamp right here, which is called Bria, I think that's right, Bria Rose, and so that goes with her. And then I'm also going to be using, I believe these are the moon pods. I'm going to be using the moon pods as well for this video. And then I'm also adding a couple other things that you can also get at the Fairy Stamper store. They also have some Lavinia stencils, and I'm going to be using this one, and this one is called Berry. And I'm also going to be using these two stamps, which also I noticed were in the store. And this one is called Fairy Buttercups, and this one is called Wildflower. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the dies, and then we're going to get going on making the card. Okay, I'm using my stamping platform, and I'm also using a heavier weight cardstock. You do not need to use a heavier weight cardstock. I am, because of the design that I'm going to be making, I want my stamp to stand up away from the paper. That's my plan. We'll see what happens. I'm also using VersaFine Clear Nocturne. I haven't stamped on this for a little bit. We'll have to see if that's working for me. And I just want a really nice image, and I'm using, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not using Nocturne, I am using Morning Mist, because my intention is I am going to do some coloring, I think, on this. So I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. We'll see if that works. Yep, she needs a little bit. And again, this is a little bit porous, and that's probably why it needs a little bit more ink. If not, I'm going to go ahead and do the Nocturne. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I think we could do just a little bit more. So I probably should have used the Nocturne to begin with. Okay, that looks pretty good, but you know what? I just am not really happy right now, and I know it's because I haven't used my stamp in just a little while. So let me just use some Nocturne on that body. Yeah, that's going to give me a better, I can tell right away. So that's what we'll use. We'll use the Nocturne. Perfect. Okay, so she's all ready to be die cut. I'm going to do the other two. The moon, I think I'm going to make more than two, to be honest with you. So we're going to go ahead and use this. I have some scrap that I'm using. Okay, and I don't know what I just set my, oh, there it is. I was saying, I don't know where I set that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the largest moon pod. And I'm going to make it in the center just so I have enough room for my die. Put it down a little bit. Get some of that ink off. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Nocturne for this as well. think that these are really fun to color in. I think it just needs just a tad bit more. That's perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do the second one down below. And I'm actually going to do some more off screen, but I'm just going to show you the basic ones that I'm doing because I want more than 2. And this will allow me to build that scene up that I'm wanting to make. So, but this is, you know how to stamp, but I'm just showing you how I'm stamping for the dies. I'm trying to make sure I have space around them to cut it out. All right, that's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get it all set up to die cut these. Okay, so I have the stamp and I have the die all set up, ready to go through the die cutting machine. One of the things that I wanted to say to you is that the name of the die is not the same as the name of the stamp. Lavinia Stamps wanted the names to be separate. So this is called, let me make sure I get the right one. So this one, like I said, is for the Bria Rose, and this is called Tulip Smell Fairy in terms of the fairy cut name. So I have that all set up. And I have the base plate. I have the one plate that's just the, I don't know what you call these, but cutting plates. And you put another cutting plate on top of that. And then you just run it through your die cutting machine. I usually put my hand right here, and I'm trying not to do this so you can see. And that just comes out just like that. And I'll try to get that back up there so you can see. I'll put this up here, gives me a little bit more stability. And then you just take that off and you have a perfectly cut fairy for your projects, which is, I'm going to still work on a project, but I just wanted you to see how nice that die cut. It has a very close white line to it also. And not only that, but say you don't want, you know, the white part, you could always go through that with your ink and ink that up with like a light gray or something so that it's more of a neutral color for the background, just depending on what you're making. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the moon buds as well so you can see how that works. Okay, I called them moon buds, but I think these are moon pods. I get the pods and the buds mixed up sometimes, but this is the larger one, and I went ahead and taped it on the bottom of the stem so it didn't move because that's thin, and I also taped it at the top. That way it stays better in place. And again, it's the same sandwich, your base, and then your 2 plates. Now I'm just going to go ahead and run that through. And we'll take a look at that. And you have a beautiful moon pod as well that will go really great with your fairy. So one other thing I wanted to tell you, I wanted to show you, is once you cut these out, you can also use, well, here I can just show you on this one. You can also use these as stencils for when you do your stamping. Like you could actually, say you wanted to stamp, you could, and this just works really good for a stencil. You could, you know, ink through this and then put your stamp on top. So they also work really well for making your own little stencils. So I'm going to go ahead and do the small one. Maybe you'd like to see how I put that together. I think I can do it here so you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. Yeah, you can see right here. I wasn't sure if you could. And let's see, I didn't put mine in location I thought I had it in. Just one second. Oh, it was right here. And that's what happens when you do some working and you put things in different places. Goodness. All right, I need to find my die. I'll be right back. Somehow I managed to have my die fall on the floor right in the middle of trying to film. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show you. They do cut close to the stamp. So it's like you do have to be a little bit fussy about how you lay that out. And then I always use tape, but you can also use any type of tape that won't stick to your paper. And I'm trying to line that up a little bit. I'm looking at all the little grooves of the where they fit. And because these are a detailed stamp, you have to take your time at setting up the die. So I've got the base set and the top set. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put it's again the same sandwich, base plate and 2 plates. And we'll go ahead and run that through. And let's check that one out. And again, now we're going to have a second stencil and die cut. Getting all fumbled up here. There we go. And that is just absolutely beautiful. So we have several to go ahead and build our scene, but I'm going to go ahead and cut a few more out and do some stamping and stenciling like I showed you at the beginning. I'll be right back. Okay, so now for the stencil part. And what we're going to do is use this, like I told you, this one is called Berry. And I'm going to be using Distress Oxide chipped Sapphire. And all I'm going to do is actually probably be easier if I just ran that over. I wonder if I can. Let's just see if we'll do that first. Right. So I'm just going to rub this over everything on here. It's a little bit easier than using the blending brush for what I want to do. I just want to make sure I have, you know, enough ink on here. Okay. For my background. And then I'm just going to take my water mister, and I'm going to spray this off screen a minute. You can hear just a couple spritz with that. And I have a card cut to use for our die cuts, and it's 8.5 by 5.5. And I'm going to actually just stamp with this stencil. And actually it's going to have to be cut back because the stencil is a little bit smaller than what I'm using. And I'm just going to stamp with that on there. Okay. And I'm going to pick it up and take a look. And I have some design on there. And that's okay. I just wanted it to be subtle. So then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the chipped sapphire by holding this down. And I'm going to come to the top and just have a little bit because I want the top to be a little bit darker. And I'm going to add, it'd be nice if I put some ink on my blending brush. I'm just going to add a little bit of ink up here at the top. I'm not going to make it be really, really dark. Let's see how that looks with the two. Yeah, I want those two designs. And this will take you just a little bit of time. And you can add more color if you want. I'm just kind of doing it light. I just want to have like a subtle background for my die cuts. Okay, so I need one more ink, I believe, or two more inks for down here. And I think I'm going to get a pink. And maybe, yeah, I think I'm going to get a pink. I'm going to go with Abandoned Coral, I think, because I kind of like that combination together. And hopefully it's not too much. Nope. And like I said, it's just going to be random back here. And a little bit maybe darker at the top, and then gradually get lighter towards the bottom. Maybe. The way things are going, maybe not. But I just want a little bit of color. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. I think that's just want it to be a little bit subtle. You can see it just has a little bit of the stamping on it and a little bit of the color in the background. That will work perfect. And then I'm going to set up, because I'm going to do some stamping with my die cuts. Okay, so you can see how I tentatively have the die cut set up on here, and it's really nice because I don't have to do any type of masking or anything. And what I do want to do is I'm using these acetate sheets that come with the stamps, and I'm going to put these behind here so I can see how I'm going to add a little bit more to the background so you can see. And then I'm going to also use some of these as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of that stamping. I have to move these out of the way. And you can get more detailed. I'm just trying to simply show you in a video how you can combine the dies with your stamping and not have to do some masking either. So that's also really nice. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and probably, I think for these, because I want them to be more in the background, I'm going to go ahead and see if my Morning Mist will work well. If not, I'll again stamp with just the Nocturne. And then Morning Mist allows me to come back in color if I want to. I'm getting some ink there. So I'm just going to do that, and that's perfect. And I'm going to move this up because I'm going to do this side first and then bring them in the center. And it doesn't have to be a perfect stamping across the bottom either, because it just doesn't have to be. All right. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And we'll do one in the center. I don't think that's going to obstruct anything of what we're doing. Kind of makes it a little bit sort of symmetrical. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and add, I think this is called Wildflower, to the background. And I knew that I wanted them to the side. It's not going to hurt because they're lighter. Move this back down. Yeah, that's actually a little bit darker than I thought it would be, but that's okay. I could do a second generation. Yeah, I like the second generation. I'm going to keep doing that too, I think. All right. I don't think I can get another one, but we'll try. Nope. So I think what I want to do is I do want to get a second generation, so I'm going to stamp on another piece of paper really quick so I can get another second generation. There we go. And I think we'll get one over here as well. Yep, one a little bit darker. There we go. So those are good. That's going to be our background. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the, just show you how that looks with them in the background. So it really does look like she's in the, you know, she's in the front and they're in the back. So go ahead and get that put together. I'm going to do some coloring and I'll be back. Okay, so this part of the video is going to show you how I put everything together. If you want to see how that happens, you can always just plain and simple glue your dies that you've cut out straight on to your card. I'm going to give mine a little bit of dimension, so I'm adding some double-sided foam tape to the back. But first I want to go ahead and show you how I ended up making this background. I did ink, distress ink around the outside, and I did color in the flowers using Prismacolors pencils. I also did that with coloring in the moon pods, and I also did that coloring in Bria. So now I'm going to go ahead and I also distressed a little bit this down here by using torn paper. So the first thing I do is I always try to, I call it kind of like auditioning, how I want things to be set up on the page or on the card, and so that it makes sense kind of when I go to do it. And my first layer it'll be just like when you do 3D, you're building up anything. That's what I do. I try to add foam to the top layers and then just glue the bottom layer in. So that's like how I'm planning to put this together, somewhat like that. I think I'm gonna move her over, move that over a little bit, and that gives you an idea. You can always, like I said, audition wherever you want to put things and then commit to where they're going to be going. So I'm going to do this one first because it's going to go on the back, and I'm just using the glue to glue this on. There's a lot of other ideas you can use. My ink or my glue's not coming out. There's a lot of other things you can do. If you've heard of like the sliders, you can actually put, because it's a die cut, you could actually make a slider, and she could slide across the scene because you have your die cut already. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot of things you can do once you have dies with your stamps. So that one's going to go like right there, and that one is just being glued down straight away. So I prepared these other dies by putting double-sided foam tape on the back. And then I'm not putting it down here. It's rather thin, which I could do, but also it would not pop out further than the bloom anyway. And that would be just glued down. And then I'm doing the same with the small one. I'm just adding a little bit of glue to the bottom. Now, if you wanted this one to stay, be higher up, you could put double the amount of tape, double-sided tape on the back, or just leave it as is. And then I'd put one over to the side to kind of balance it off a little bit. Oh, I forgot to put glue down there. Just add a little bit underneath. And that'll hold it. Okay, and then I'm going to put Bria on. Now you might think that, I mean, I do want these to stand out from the background, and with them having the white outline, it does. But I also don't want, this one almost looks like it's floating. So what I'm going to do is, if I can get this tape backing off, I am going to use the ink, a little bit of ink on that part. The thing is, I could really overlap, even she could even be in front of all of it. It would be really cool. So I have a little bit of the same ink that I used down below, which is Mowed Lawn. And all I'm going to do is just tap a little bit on the bottom of it to try to make it blend in a little bit more. It doesn't have to be that way, it's just what I'm doing. And that kind of makes it blend in a little bit. I'm sure there's other things you could put on top of that to make that look really good. So at any rate, that's just a really quick idea of what you can do if you have the dies. And again, like I said, those dies are available at fairystamper.com. They're exclusive to that store. And we also have some Lavinia stamps available on that site. All the ones I used here, including the stencil, is still available on our site. Once they're gone, they're going to be gone. So I hope you had fun, at least got a little bit inspired in what you can do if you have dies and you can layer them up without having to do masking. It's really quite fun. So I'll have all the information below in the description. Thanks so much for stopping by.